The hospital was quieting down. The daytime bustle was giving way to a special nighttime atmosphere when time seems to flow more slowly. I loved night shifts. Fewer bosses, less hustle, just you and your patients. "Dr. Stone, you have a difficult night ahead," the head nurse smiled, handing me the charts. "The intensive care unit is almost full." "I'll manage." I flipped through the documents. "Who else is on duty tonight?" "Dr. Harris in the ER, Dr. Wendy Miller in the ICU. I almost dropped the folders. Wendy, my mother-in-law. Usually we work different shifts, but sometimes our schedules overlapped. We got along as you can get along with a mother-in-law. She was a good doctor, a respected specialist. At 45, she looked stunning, slim, fit, with that red hair and green eyes. My wife, Rachel, inherited her beauty. The first hours of the shift flew by in usual routine. Around midnight, I went to the break room for coffee. Wendy was already there. "Tough night?" she asked, not looking up from her cup. "Yes, 3 critical cases." "Me too," she rubbed her temples. "And this migraine." I looked at her more carefully. She looked exhausted. "Don't you have any painkillers?" "Ran out and the pharmacy only has prescription ones." "I have some." I took a blister pack from my pocket. "Here." "Thanks," she smiled gratefully. "You're always so caring. Rachel is lucky." Something in her voice made me wary. "Everything okay?" "Yes, just tired," she sighed. "You know, there's wine in the locker. Maybe a glass to relieve stress? At work?" "Come on, Aaron. Everyone keeps a stash there. Besides, we're on break." I hesitated. It was against the rules, but Wendy looked so tired. "Okay," I agreed. "Just one." She took out a bottle and 2 plastic cups. "To survival," she smirked, raising hers. The wine was decent. We sat in silence, sipping the drink, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the tension releasing. "You know," Wendy suddenly said, "sometimes I envy Rachel." "Why?" "She has you, caring, attentive, and I'm so tired of being alone." After her divorce 2 years ago, she really had been alone. I'd never seen her with other men. "You're a beautiful woman," I said. "You could—" "Could what?" She looked me in the eyes. "Find someone at my age with my schedule? Come on, you look amazing." The words slipped out before I could think. Wendy gave me a strange look. "Really?" I felt a chill run down my spine. Something changed in the room's atmosphere. Something dangerous. "We should probably get back to work." I stood up, but my head was slightly spinning from the wine. "Yes, probably," she rose too, and we ended up very close to each other. Her perfume smelled of something floral. I'd never noticed before how beautiful her eyes were. The pager burst into beeping, making us both jump. "Emergency call," I mumbled, looking at the screen. "I have to go." Leaving the room, I felt her gaze on me, and I knew this night was just beginning. The call turned out to be a false alarm, just a sensor malfunction. I returned to the break room, hoping Wendy had left, but she was still there. "Everything all right?" she asked. "Yes, false alarm." I sat back down. The cup of wine still stood on the table. "You know," she poured a bit more, "I often think about that evening when you first came to our house with Rachel." "Really?" "Yes, you were so serious, so proper," she smirked. "I thought, here's the perfect husband for my daughter." "And you don't think so now?" "Now," she took a sip. "Now I think you're too good for her." I choked on my wine. "What?" "Come on, Aaron, you see how she treats your work. For her, it's just a way to make money, but you live for this." She was right. Rachel often complained about my shifts, didn't understand my dedication to work. "Wendy, you know what's funniest?" She moved closer. "I'm not just envious that she has you. I'm envious that she doesn't appreciate what she has." She smelled of wine and floral perfume. In the dim light of the night break room, her eyes seemed darker than usual. "We shouldn't be talking about this," my voice sounded hoarse. "Why? Because I'm your wife's mother, or because you feel it too?" "Feel what?" "This." She put her hand on my knee. "This tension between us. It's always been there. We just ignored it." I should have stood up, should have left. Instead, I watched as her hand slowly moved up my thigh. "Wendy, we can't—" "We can." She moved even closer. "We just shouldn't." Her face was inches from mine. I could feel her breath, see the pulse throbbing in her neck. "It's the wine," I mumbled. "We're not ourselves." "No," she shook her head. "The wine just gave us courage to admit the obvious." I don't know who leaned in first. Just suddenly we were kissing, desperately, hungrily, as if this kiss could quench years of suppressed desire. Her lips were soft, with a taste of wine. Her hand slipped under my coat, my fingers tangled in her hair. "Is your pager off?" she whispered between kisses. "Yes, mine too." She stood and held out her hand. "Come on." "Where?" To the on-call room. There's a couch and a lock on the door." It was madness, pure, unadulterated madness, but I took her hand and followed. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about consequences. Wasn't thinking about Rachel, about work, about morality. I was only thinking about how beautiful Wendy's red hair looked spread across the pillow. Reality was receding, leaving just the two of us. Morning seemed so far away, and we were so close to the edge, beyond which there was no return. The first thing I felt in the morning was the scent of floral perfume. The second, the horror of realizing what had happened. Wendy was sleeping next to me on the narrow couch in the on-call room, her red hair spread across the pillow. Her coat lay on the floor with the rest of our clothes. The clock showed 6:45. Shift change was coming soon. "Damn!" I sat up abruptly, and the movement woke Wendy. "Good morning," she mumbled. Then her eyes widened with understanding. "Oh, God." We hurriedly got dressed, avoiding looking at each other. Every sound from the corridor made us jump. "Wendy, Don't!" She was fixing her hair in front of the small mirror. "Just don't!" Her hands were shaking as she buttoned her coat. I remembered undoing those buttons a few hours ago, kissing each exposed piece of skin. "We need to talk." "About what?" She turned to me. "About how we betrayed my daughter, your wife?" "Listen." "No, you listen," her voice trembled. "This was a mistake. We were drunk, tired. Let's just forget it." But how to forget? How to forget the taste of her lips, the sound of her moans, how she whispered my name? Voices were heard in the corridor. The morning shift was starting. "I'll go out first," said Wendy. "Wait 5 minutes." She was already at the door when I caught her arm. "What if I don't want to forget?" She froze. I could see her pulse racing in her neck. "Don't do this," she whispered. "Please." "What?" "Don't say it was something more. Don't make it complicated." She slipped out the door, leaving me alone with my thoughts and guilt. 5 minutes later, I walked into the corridor. The hospital was coming alive. Nurses changing shifts, doctors making rounds. "Dr. Stone," the head nurse called out, "is everything all right? You weren't responding to calls last night." "Yes, I turned off my pager, was dealing with a complicated case." "With Dr. Miller?" She gave me a strange look. She wasn't responding either. I felt my back go cold. I don't know, I didn't see her. At home, Rachel greeted me with a smile. "How was your shift?" "Fine." I couldn't look her in the eyes. "Very tired." "Poor thing," she kissed me. "Oh, by the way, Mom called, said she had a tough shift too." I silently went to shower, hoping to wash away the scent of floral perfume and guilt. But it wouldn't wash away. My phone vibrated. A message from Wendy. "We need to talk. Not at work." I stared at the screen, feeling my heart pounding in my throat. We really needed to talk, but I was afraid of this conversation, because I already knew something had changed irrevocably last night. We met in a small cafe on the other side of town. Wendy chose a table in the far corner, away from the windows. "No one knows I'm here," she said instead of greeting. "Told Rachel I had a meeting." "And I said I was meeting with a medical supplier." I sat across from her. "We're already lying to her." We did something worse than lying. Her fingers nervously twisted her coffee cup. She looked exhausted, but still beautiful. I caught myself remembering how that red hair had spread across the pillow. "We need to stop," she said firmly. "This can never happen again." Agreed, but my gaze treacherously slipped to her lips. "Aaron, I'm serious." She covered my hand with hers. "We can't." The touch burned. The next moment we were kissing in her car in the empty parking lot behind the cafe. "We shouldn't," she whispered between kisses. "I know," I pulled her closer. "This is wrong." "Absolutely." But we couldn't stop. Her skin burned under my hands, my fingers tangled in her hair. "I have an apartment," she breathed. "Not far from here. I rent it for solitude." It was madness, but 10 minutes later we were there, forgetting everything in the world. Afterward, we lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "What are we doing?" she whispered. "Destroying our lives? This isn't funny." "I know," I turned to her, "but I can't stop thinking about you since that night." "Me too." She closed her eyes. "God, I'm the worst mother in the world. And I'm the worst husband. We need to stop." "We do." But instead, I kissed her again, and all conversation ceased. That evening, I returned home from the meeting. Rachel was cooking dinner. "How was the meeting?" she asked. "Fine." I avoided her gaze. "How about you?" Good, Mom stopped by today. I froze. Oh! Yes, brought those pills I asked for. Strange, isn't it? Said she had a meeting in this area, but she looked so disheveled. I felt my back go cold. Probably tired, I mumbled. Probably. She looked at me carefully. Honey, you have lipstick on your collar. My heart stopped. What? She laughed. Just kidding. Should have seen your face. I forced a smile, but inside I was shaking. We were becoming careless. And that's dangerous. The phone quietly vibrated. A message from Wendy. Never again. I looked at the screen and wrote, never. We both knew it was a lie. The next 2 weeks turned into some kind of mad dance on the brink of exposure. Wendy and I met at every opportunity. In her apartment, in hotel rooms, once even in a hospital storage room. I'm going crazy, she whispered, kissing me. Can't think about anything else. Me neither. My hand slid over her body, so familiar now. You've already driven me crazy. We were becoming careless, risky. Each meeting could be our last, and we rushed to have our fill of each other. At work, whispers were becoming more frequent. Dr. Stone and Dr. Miller are on duty together too often, I once overheard nurses talking. And they always disappear at the same time. We tried to be more careful, but passion clouded reason. Honey, Rachel said at dinner, maybe we should invite Mom over for the weekend. She's been acting strange lately. I think she's lonely. I choked on my wine. Why strange? I don't know. She looks better somehow. Started wearing makeup, bought new clothes. Maybe she's met someone? Maybe. I tried to speak calmly, though my heart was racing madly. We should ask her, Rachel smiled. You know, I'd be happy if she found someone again, if only she knew. That evening I wrote to Wendy, we need to be more careful. People at work are starting to suspect. I know, she replied. Maybe we should take a break? Yes, probably. A pause. Then, come now one last time. I knew I shouldn't. But 20 minutes later I was at her apartment. I lied to Rachel that I'm on duty, I said, kissing her neck. And I said I'm going to a conference. She was unbuttoning my shirt. We're horrible people. I know. She pulled me closer. But I can't stop. Our bodies merged in a single impulse, as if this was their last chance to be together. And then her phone rang. Rachel? Panic was in Wendy's voice. I froze, listening to the conversation. No, honey, I'm at a conference. What, you're outside my house? We looked at each other in horror. Wanted to surprise me? Wendy's voice trembled. Honey, A doorbell ring made us both jump. Mom, I see lights in the windows and Aaron's car is parked outside. Damn! I frantically pulled on my clothes. Damn, damn, damn! Wendy stood frozen with the phone in her hand. What do we do? Another doorbell ring. Mom, I know you're there. And why is Aaron's car here? Bathroom, Wendy whispered. Quick! I darted into the bathroom while she went to open the door. Through the thin wall, I could hear every word. Sweetie, what a surprise! Mom, what's going on? Why did you say you were at a conference? I just wanted to be alone. And Aaron's car? A pause. I held my breath. He brought me some medicine for my migraine. And left by taxi? Suspicion sounded in Rachel's voice. Yes, I asked him to leave the car. I needed to go to the pharmacy. Why didn't you tell the truth? Why all this deception? I could hear the pain in my wife's voice and hated myself for it. Honey, Wendy's voice trembled. I didn't want you to worry. Mom, what's happening with you? You've been different lately, hiding something. At that moment, my phone, lying on the bed, burst into ringing. Loud, piercing ringing. Silence, terrible ringing silence. Then footsteps, approaching the bedroom. Rachel, don't! The bedroom door opened. I could hear it through the bathroom wall. Why are Aaron's clothes here? Her voice was so quiet, so calm. That was the scariest part. I realized the moment had come. Slowly opened the bathroom door. Rachel stood in the middle of the bedroom, holding my shirt. Wendy stood frozen in the doorway, pale as death. Honey, I began. Don't you dare! She didn't even turn to me. How long? Rachel. How long? 2 weeks, Wendy answered quietly. Since that night shift. Rachel laughed, a terrible, empty laugh. Perfect, just perfect, my husband and my mother. It happened by accident. I took a step toward her. Stay where you are, she finally looked at me. There were no tears in her eyes. Only emptiness. I don't want to hear explanations, don't want to hear excuses. I just want you both to disappear from my life. Sweetie. And you, she turned to her mother, don't even try, just don't try. She walked to the exit, stopped at the door. You know what's funniest? I was pregnant, wanted to surprise you, that's why I came. And then she left, just left, leaving us in the silence of destroyed lives. Wendy sat on the bed, covering her face with her hands. What have we done? I stared at the door where my life had disappeared, not knowing what to answer. You know, Wendy suddenly said, raising empty eyes to me. Leave. Just leave. Maybe if I stay alone, she might forgive me someday. And what about us? There is no us anymore, never was. There was just a mistake that destroyed everything. I silently gathered my things and left. In the corridor, I turned around. I loved you. Really. I know, she whispered. That was the biggest mistake. That night, I drove through empty streets, not knowing where to go. Somewhere in the city was my pregnant wife, whose heart we broke. Somewhere was the woman I loved but couldn't have. And I just drove forward, understanding that sometimes the price of passion is too high, and some mistakes can't be fixed. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.